Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The last speaker for an eminent conclave like this has always a big problem. Whether anything is left to be spoken about or not. I was just taking a briefing as to what has been spoken. Arunji has already covered a big ground. But today, I would like to speak a little more on digital inclusion. Because digital inclusion is a part of financial inclusion. Or I would say, in the scheme of Narendra Modi government, digital inclusion is the foundation on which financial inclusion is sought to be erected successfully. We have certain fundamental approach of commitment as far as digital platform is concerned. The first and foremost is that in India, we may have missed the other revolution which empowered and motivated the world in various degrees for a variety of reasons, be it the industrial revolution, be it the entrepreneur revolution which became an important initiative in the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. But we don't want to miss the import of digital revolution. On the contrary, we want to become the leaders in the field of digital revolution. The second important attribute of our initiative is we don't want simply to digitize India, but we want to create technology which is transformative, which empowers India and also empowers Indians. This is the age of information. Information is power. This is the age of technology. Technology is power. But what is very important is that this technology should not create enablement of people of India. This technology must empower the people of India. That is our important attribute of our whole approach. The second is, we also want to create a digital ecosystem which leads to digital inclusion. And therefore you may have heard about these comments. Digital India is more for the poor and underprivileged. Digital India is more for the ordinary Indians. You may have heard we are undertaking a lot of transformative program, Digital India, Make in India, Startup India, Stand Up India, the Smart Cities, Skill India. These are all technology-based programs. Therefore, digital inclusion must be the common thread in all these programs. Three more attributes are important to be kept in mind whenever we talk of digital inclusion. The technology must be affordable. The technology must be affordable. Number two, the technology must lead to inclusion. And number three, the technology must be developmental. If you come with technology which is very costly or elitist or pro-rich, it would not lead to inclusion. These thematic concepts behind the entire process of our digitization and digital initiative is required to be appreciated. The third attribute is Digital India should also ensure digital delivery of services. It also create digital infrastructure. But most important, it must lead to digital empowerment. And for that, we are going to make 6 crore, 60 million Indian families as digitally literate. What is the digital profile of India? Because the JAM Trinity you must have heard about. How JAM Trinity has worked upon the digital infrastructure which we have created is very important to be appreciated. An India of 1.25 billion plus population is home to about 1.20 mobile phones, out of which nearly 500 million plus is a smartphone, moving computers. We have got 1.18 billion, Ajay, it is right, Aadhaar cards, 118 crores. 120 crore mobile phone, 118 crore Aadhaar cards. 50 crore internet. I'm sure Ajay Bhushan Pandey, the CEO of Aadhaar, is here. He must have spoken about it in the panel. Other would have been speaking about it. But I would give you a different impression about this whole Aadhaar. First of all, in India, we have added mobile phones in the last 2-3 years equal to the population of France and Italy. And that is the scale on which we work. What is the cost of Aadhaar? $1 each head. And about 60 rupees plus is the cost of one Aadhaar. A low-cost technology. Digital locker, free of cost. Authentication by Aadhaar, 3 crore plus, 30 million per day, or nearly free of cost. Cloud system, very minimum charge. Therefore, from Aadhaar and mobile phone, one of the cheapest mobile phone rates are in India. And now the consumers of India are waiting to hear when the cost will become zero, the way mobile phones company are competing with each other. Therefore, low-cost technology has become the beacon of India's digital initiative. You may have heard from the JAM Trinity, from the Honorable the Finance Minister and others, how by proper linkage of the Aadhaar with the Jan Dhan account of the poor, nearly 300 million, 30 crores, and the mobile phone, we have saved about 57,000 crores, nearly $10 billion, which used to be pilfered by middlemen or fictitious persons. But what is the rationale behind this whole exercise? Indians were deprived of the bank. Hence, bank loan was not available. Indians were deprived of good credit. They used to go to the private lending with exploitative interest rate. And thirdly, most important, the genuine government welfare schemes meant for them in ration, in subsidy, in gas, used to be pilfered by middlemen or fictitious claimants. You may have heard about a story in India that the daughter was not even born, but she grew up, she got married, and she became a widow, and she was getting widow pension. There was many instances like this type. Digital delivery is faster delivery. Digital delivery is genuine delivery. Since you talk of financial inclusion, you may recall the famous statement of a former Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi, who once said, I sent ₹1 from Delhi and only 15 naya paisa reaches on the ground. In the Narendra Modi government, if ₹1,000 is being sent to the account of the poor, ₹1,000 is reaching the account of the poor. that is empowerment. Manrega payment, how it is creating financial inclusion. Manrega payment financial inclusion, that the money comes pocketed by affluent people. A simple portion is given to the poor Majdoor or the workers, and rest distributed as a kitty. How does digital connect leading to digital inclusion? Direct benefit transfer. The genuine worker who is doing this rural working program, which we call Manrega, is getting the money in his account. Therefore, any non-eligible person is not getting the money. This is how financial inclusion is being created. Ajay, the CEO of Aadhaar, once told me an interesting story. In Maharashtra, the cadre from which he comes, tribal students are paid their entire fee by the government, the boarding, the lodging, the education, everything. And once the collector decided that let all the tribal students have an Aadhaar linkage. And the number of students came down by 40% straight away. One count, second count, third count. It was found the rest were only on the register. The same number for teachers also. Now, how digital foundation is working? We are saving money, it is the taxpayers' money, but the genuine are getting the benefits. Therefore, digital foundation is helping good governance and also creating financial inclusion and the resultant empowerment. These issues are very important to be appreciated. Take the case of lending part of it. Once you are in possession of a bank account, once you are having a digital platform, once you are having an Aadhaar card and other things, how it happened? About 8.6 crore, 80 million plus Indians got about 4 lakh crore plus as loan in the Mudra account. Who were these fellows? The thelawalas, the chaiwalas, the panwalas, one who used to do small manual work of business, who were outside the lending system of the bank. They improved their business, they reinforced their infrastructure, they expanded their business and added people also. A lot of questions are asked about employment. I always say, and it is a matter of record now, if out of 8.6 crore loanees who took the loan, even if 4 to 5 crore have added one person more to expand their business, about 5 to 4 to 5 crore people of India have got jobs in the expanded business. But what is important is, digital technology is helping them to get funds and also empower them. Security. We have given various insurance security, death, accident insurance, general insurance, other things to about almost 12 crore, 120 million Indians. And the insurance rate is how much? ₹1 per month in the event you die with a motor accident, 12 per year. In case you die, 2 lakh insurance claim, and about 340 in case of ordinary death. But all are digitally delivered. Soil health card. What is a soil health card? You know your problem of health, whether your blood pressure is okay, your blood sugar is okay, your heartbeat is okay. There are conditions that it can be tested. But what about the health of the soil of the farmer? Is it over-fertilized? Is it important that you please redo it? You change your cropping pattern? The soil health card, which immediately digitally profiles your health card, right? The health condition of your soil. And farmers are using that technology. ENAM. What is ENAM? A farmer has to sell his product. but doesn't know where to because the local mandi, the market, is exploitative. We have now added about 250 plus crop markets on the website. A farmer can negotiate the best price for his product. E-health. What is e-health? Again the same thing. People from Bihar, UP, MP has to come to Delhi to have a special treatment in AIMS, but first to come to Delhi, get a registration, go back, a date will come after 3 months to 2 months. E-hospital, at a click of a button, you can get yourself registered and get an appointment on this day, this doctor will wait for you. I can count many other things from e-visa to other things. But digital governance and digital foundation in both way is creating three things. A, empowering people. B, delivering services. And C, promoting good governance of transparency. This ecosystem, if understood properly, then you'll understand as to how India is changing. I can give you only one example. As a Minister of Electronics, I talked of mobile, how many mobiles are there. But there were only 2 factories when our government has come to power. Manufacturing mobile phone. Now in the last 3 years, we have added 95 factories which are manufacturing mobile phones in India. And 32 of them are only in Noida and Greater Noida and rest in other parts of the country. Because India is a huge market. India's digital economy is rising very fast. Let me tell you, there are 3 stages of India's digital development. The first is when Indian IT company went abroad and left a good mark of India's creative talent in the field of technology. Today, Indian IT companies are present in 200 cities of 80 countries. 55% of outsourcing came to India. Bangalore and other places, Gurgaon, emerge as hotbed of India's digital technology. The second phase, big international company came to India. Google, Facebook, Amazon, because of the size of India's market. And the third, India's talent is rising. India is emerging as a big startup movement. We add 4 to 6 startups every day, about 4 to 5,000 every year. India's talent is rising and the world is coming to India because of the sheer size of India. Today, Facebook has the biggest presence of Indians on the Facebook. They come with ideas. They come with innovations. Now I come to how does innovation creates inclusion? And again, I'll try to come to the Aadhaar story. Why I'm very proud of Aadhaar? Aadhaar is typical India's innovation. Aadhaar technology is all domestically produced, kept in safe condition. All the data, and mind you, Aadhaar may have been started earlier, but what we did, we brought a law giving it complete legislative backing with due regard to privacy. But before I speak about Aadhaar, let me show something with my own Aadhaar card. I hope I'm having it. Yes, it is there. This is my Aadhaar card. All of you may be having it. What does it contain? It contains my name, I am a male, and my permanent Patna address. It does not contain my parents' name. It does not contain my religion, my community, my educational qualification, my medical record, my income, or my education. Therefore, none of the attributes on which I can be profiled is contained here. But what does the system contain? The system contains my biometrics of 10 fingers and my iris, kept under safe and secure condition. Suppose one goes to the bank to open the bank account. And if it is asked, the system is only confirmed that I am Ravi Shankar Prasad, that's all. Aadhaar does not know what for the banking asking the information. You used to go to have a SIM card, you need to give your identity. Hundreds and hundreds of pages of authentication. Aadhaar card, about 30 crore plus SIM card have been purchased. They are supposed to keep it only for this. And if any company pilfers that, they can go to jail for 7 years, fine of 10 lakh crore. And the privacy law is so tough that even if I, as an IT Minister of India, as a Law Minister of India, disclose my fingerprint and iris to anyone unauthorized, even I can be prosecuted. That is the kind of ecosystem we have developed. The data is safe, secure, and kept in completely encrypted form. Let me give another example of Aadhaar bringing in good governance and also accountability. Driver takes a motor driving license, drives in a drunken manner, causes accident, 4 or 5 people die. He flees away to an adjoining state and gets a duplicate or driving license in another's name. We are linking Aadhaar with driving license. Even if you run away, you go to have a new duplicate or fictitious license or in a different name, the system will say, this man is already having a license because it's linked to Aadhaar, and fingerprint don't speak a lie. That is how we are bringing in digital inclusion. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, these issues are indeed very, very important. I would like to speak a little about digital payment, because our government is promoting digital payment in a very, very big way. What is digital payment? Clean payment. What is digital payment? Payment to which you can own up and be accountable. These are the simple issues of digital payment. And again, we have come with new technology. I don't want to speak about black money and all these things. Honorable the Finance Minister must have dealt with it. But what is important is, we have created low-cost BHIM app, UPIs, at a fraction of a cost, nearly free. Today are available, on which you can exchange your currency, digitally speaking. About nearly 1.7 crore people have downloaded BHIM app. The transactions have risen, and even the amount is rising. As of now, we are keeping the exchange of currency and transactions to a little within the limit. It is already close to 49,000 crores. It will go along again. But what is important is, in low-cost digital payment technology, India is setting a world benchmark. Like Aadhaar, like digital locker, now digital payment. And how digital payment empowers ordinary people. Suppose a chai wala or a thele wala or a person selling ordinary goods on the footpath is accepting digital payment. When he goes to have a bank account, the banker will ask him, what is the worth of your business? Obviously, he cannot say straight away, but his digital payment record will show the worth of his business, that so many customers come to my footpath shop and deal with me. And that will become a basis for him to get loan and other financial incentives. Therefore, digital payment, apart from clean money, also empowers and creates digital inclusion. These are some of the larger issues which I have flagged to you. I know this question will come, if not to the IT Minister of India, then to the Law Minister of India, about the recent judgment of the Supreme Court on the privacy part. Therefore, I would like to very briefly deal with that. I would like you to go through the judgment, and in paragraph 170 to 190, the Supreme Court has elaborately dealt with information age and privacy. The Supreme Court has held that right to privacy is not an independent right. It is the part of Article 21, right to life, and is not absolute as others fundamental rights of India are not absolute. I always say in lighter vein to my young friends, you have got the right of freedom of speech. India is a democracy. You can criticize me on my face. You can ask me critical questions. But should you say that I will go in front of the Rashtrapati Bhavan and speak in my undergarments and shout there? You cannot, because that is a place of security. B, it is against decency. And C, it is against public order. And all these three are the basis on which your right to speech can be curtailed and regulated under the Constitution. But let me make some general observations on privacy. First of all, let me clarify that we are committed to respect the judgment and we are committed to respect the privacy of Indians. And if I'm speaking here, I wish to make it very clear that if any body, state actor or a non-state actor, seeks to disclose the identity of any Indian with his or her privacy informations, the consequences will follow. Be very clear about it. But let me deal with some larger issues. Your right to visit any city is your right to privacy. You want to go to Mumbai, that is your choice. It is the right of privacy. But the mode of transport you take will make your movement public. You are going by plane, you book a ticket online. You go to the airport on the day of departure, your face is captured by the CCTV and the security. Therefore, anyone can know on this day you have traveled by this flight. All right, you will not go by plane, then you go by train. Then your chart is there at the station. Your railway booking is there digital. Then if you are so strict about privacy, then cycle down to Mumbai, that's all. Because if you go by car also, you'll take petrol at many places. A journalist asked me a very interesting question, young journalist, and I have no reply to that. And I would like to throw that to my young friend sitting here. Young boy and young girl are zipping on their motorcycle in a romantic mood. That's their right, why not? But suppose they are going and there is a house on which there is CCTV on the road and the CCTV captures their mood, romantic mood on their motorcycle zipping past. They have got the right to say, how could you capture our moving in a motorcycle on your CCTV? Because once CCTV captures, you are there permanently. Anyone can see it. The house owner will say, sorry, this CCTV is meant for my security. Who passes, who goes. And if any thief runs away, the police can take from my CCTV record. If by accident you have been recorded, not by design, I'm not at fault. Here, the privacy and the security keeps on competing against each other. These incidents can be replicated. I go to Parliament. I have got a car, official car, on which there is my digital identity of my driver. I can enter the Parliament only with that car. My officer, Sajay Bhushan Pandey, comes to assist me in the Parliament. He comes with his digital badge. Every movement of his inside the Parliament is known that at this time he entered to the IT Minister's chamber. He can say, I'm a senior officer, then you don't come to the Parliament. Because security is important. You come to our office, there is a digital record of your movement. Therefore, the point to be considered is, and yes, lastly, should we completely kill the digital initiative of India, which I talked about, which you all know, the great initiative of IT movement, others? I can only say, my young friends in particular, we have to strike a balance. Data availability, data utility, data anonymity, and data privacy. The principle to be followed is data availability, data utility, data anonymity, and data privacy. Yesterday I launched a program whereby we are going to release lakhs of government data, anonymous, where we are creating a hackathon all over the country, asking 7 cities of India. Young men come with ideas how to use this data for healthcare, for transport, for crime prevention, for agriculture research. And if any good ideas come, we'll fund them. Anonymous data is important. Suppose in a particular area, chikungunya is there, encephalitis is there. The government can know what is the problem, who are the people, what is their income record, what has been the particular trait of their villages where they have been staying, what is the nature of water supply there. Without disclosing the name of the patient, the nameless, anonymous identity of the person is important in the shape of data to frame good policy. Therefore, these issues are very important to be considered in a manner which safeguards the privacy of individuals and which also enables data for research, innovation, and development. That is how I see this whole debate of privacy. But remember one thing, financial inclusion will only succeed when there is a transparent government, honest delivery. And for honest government to succeed, it is very important that things are available digitally, which you can identify, which you can quantify, which you can research, and which you can deliver. Therefore, financial inclusion and digital inclusion go hand in hand. That's how we are working. I can tell you what India brings on the table, because it is the UN body organizing this seminar. India brings on table technology, governance, delivery, which are being appreciated world over. The UN has appreciated. The World Bank has appreciated. And whenever I go outside, I see great, I would say, interest in India's digital story, building the financial inclusive story. Countries from Africa, countries from Asia, countries from Latin America are very keen to replicate this story. I can only hope that this interaction would help further give the requisite motivation so that it creates a further enabling atmosphere of more and more involvement of the community of the world in the quest of financial inclusion. Thanks a lot. Namaskar.